Okay, it says we are live, so I'm assuming that we are live.
Yeah.
And if everybody who is watching will see a very familiar face to my right, left, I can't tell left and right sometimes, but especially since the camera's mirrored. So this is the incredible Anna James, who is the author of Pages and Co, the newest one being Pages and Co, Tilly and the Map of Stories. And this has just come out yesterday in the UK. And in America, it comes out the 22nd, I believe.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, September 22nd.
22nd, which is definitely the 22nd, which I think is Tuesday.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. So, yes, I have Anna James here. Anna, do you want to briefly introduce yourself to the people who are tuning in?
Hi, thanks for watching. So yeah, I'm Anna. I write the page. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but I'm basically a children's author and an arts journalist. I write about books and theatre as well. And yeah, write pages. I'm like, that's it. I haven't got anything else to say.
Well, this is why these questions are going to be so fantastic, because we will get to know you just a little bit better, So I hope everybody has a nice beverage. It can be, like maybe a Pinot Grigio, or Anna, what are you drinking?
It's pink Prosecco.
Oh my gosh, amazing. I wish I had that right now. Never mind. But I hope everyone has a beverage. It can be a hot drink, it can be a cold drink, anything you like, because we will be chatting for roughly maybe an hour, if that's okay. I kind of want to keep you here for like as long as necessary. But yeah, thank you to every single person tuning in. To kind of give you a little footnote before we get into like some of the icebreakers and the questions, we won't be talking spoilers for the third book. So if anybody is worried about spoilers, don't worry. And especially with the second book as well, lots of things happen at the end of the first book and the second book. So we'll be as vague as possible. There won't be anything that will spoil you, or I'm not going to ask anything that's going to be too much of a spoiler. So if anybody hasn't read the second one and really doesn't want any kind of spoiler, then I will let you know when we're going to get into the third book. So don't worry about any of that. I will take care of it. But we're going to start off with some icebreakers as people are tuning in. Do leave your comments in the comments as well. We'll go into viewer Q&As probably at the end. But if you have a really good question, then I will probably ask it as we are talking about a specific subject. So let's get into some of the icebreakers, because I'm genuinely so excited about some of these answers for these questions. So first icebreaker question: are you an early bird or a night owl?
Oh, a night owl to an extreme. I am not good in the mornings, to the point where in non-virus time, when I am on tour, my publicist adds in huge extra chunks of time, because she knows that I just will not. I'm very bad at getting up in the morning, but I love being up at night and do most of my writing in the afternoons and evenings.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, I'm definitely a night owl as well. 2, 3 a.m. and that's bedtime.
Yeah. My like ideal day is like get up at like 10:30 and then go to bed at about 2:30 in the morning. That's like if there was no real life stuff going on, that would be the kind of rhythm I would go with.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, fair. I'm pretty much the same. What is the last great movie or TV show you watched?
TV show. Do you know, I just watched the first episode of The Third Day. Now, anyone who has followed me for any length of time on social media will know I'm really into immersive theatre, and Punch Drunk, which is an immersive theatre company, they're just doing this new, it's like TV meets live stuff, and the first episode is just gone up this week. I watched it on Now TV. It's like Sky and Now TV and HBO, whichever. But that's got Jude Law in it. And yeah, quite. And it's really good. It's creepy and very good. So that's the last, but I've only seen the first episode, but it was excellent. And you know, I haven't watched a new film for ages. We've been rewatching a lot of old favorites over lockdown. So I haven't actually watched something that I haven't seen before for ages, but we just watched Marie Antoinette, which is one of my
fantastic choice. Yeah. If you could live in a sitcom, what would it be?
It would be I was about to say Schitt's Creek because it's my favorite, but I'm not sure I actually would want to live there. Like,
Yeah.
really. Maybe Parks and Rec.
Oh my God, I love Parks and
I
Rec.
think. Although it's funny, isn't it? Because these they're all set in kind of like actual the places they're set, the towns.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to live in Pawnee, actually, probably at all. But I would want to be friends with Leslie Knope. So.
Oh God, tell me about it. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. It is like set in the normal world, but I think maybe like The Good Place. I don't know if maybe, but I don't know if you've seen it, but like that's kind of one of the only sitcoms I can think of where it's not like set in a modern day or like a current.
Yeah, I'd like to. It's like Schitt's Creek or Parks and Rec for being friends with like the main characters. Not, but I actually not sure I'd want to live. Oh, it's hard actually, sitcoms, isn't it? I'm not sure I'd want to live in them.
A sitcom, yeah. Fair enough. You have your own late night talk show. Which author would you invite as your first guest? It can be any author you want.
As in, do they have to be alive?
Nah, it can be anyone.
Okay, so alive though, Hilary Mantel would be top of the list. She is. I love her so much, and she is one of the only. Through my like journalism, I meet authors quite a lot, and I don't often get starstruck, but Hilary Mantel, I was so starstruck when I met her.
I can imagine.
Dead, Virginia Woolf. I'm a big Virginia Woolf fan. I think she'd be terrifying to speak to, but I'd have those two. Oh, imagine them talking to each other as well. I'd have them both at the same time.
Yeah, same. But like people would think I was stupid. Like if I wanted to speak to Hilary Mantel in Virginia Woolf, I would be the dumb one. So I feel like maybe that's not.
I mean, everyone. I don't know that anyone else would. You'd have to be the dumb one with those two. Like everybody else would be the dumb one in that trio.
That's true. Oh, no, you wouldn't be. Of course, you wouldn't be. You've lived a life.
Sure.
Now, which author would you not invite? No, joking. I won't ask that question. You have to sing. You have to sing karaoke. What song are you choosing?
It would probably be musical theatre. Something from Moulin Rouge or Hadestown. Or do you know, this is such a basic answer. Or it would be Taylor Swift.
Oh my God, yeah. That is a crowd pleaser. If you want to please the crowd, then go for Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I'm not good at karaoke. I get too self-conscious, so I would definitely have to pick something that other people would immediately join in with.
Fair, that's a good show. This one might make you squirm a little bit. Muppets Christmas Carol or Muppets Treasure Island?
I know, I love both of those, but Muppets Treasure Island is the one for me.
Now that would be a good karaoke song, actually. You know, is it Cabin Fever? I love that song. That's a good karaoke song.
That would be, I mean, if you can find a karaoke place, it would have to be quite a niche karaoke place, I think, to have that on their books. But I would join you in singing that one.
Please do, because I was obsessed with that as a kid. When I think it wasn't Blockbuster, it was like the UK equivalent. And I would lend the videotape of Muppets Treasure Island all the time. That was my it's an iconic film. It's
brilliant, and Tim Curry is so good as Lawrence over.
Yeah, and I've even got him in my head. Yeah. Name one thing that's on your bucket list.
Well, do you know what? I tweeted about this recently, and it was really supposed to be a joke, but then people took it really seriously, and I felt really bad. But then I tweeted 3 things. The first 2 are actually real things. Judge the Women's Prize. That would be probably my real answer. Have Pages and Co adapted onto screen or onto stage. But then my third one, which was the kind of joking one, was the Steps video. It's the way you make me feel.
Oh, what an iconic song and
video. I would like to recreate that video.
Well, I have a green screen, so when lockdown's over and social distancing isn't a thing anymore, I have a green screen. In fact, I have 2.
On it. I'd like to say.
On it. And then the last icebreaker question: who are your book writing besties?
I don't want to like leave people out. I am lucky to know lots of writers. Some of my closest friends are Katie Webber, who is Dragon Mountain, Catherine Doyle, who wrote The Stormkeeper's Island, and Kate Rundle, who wrote all sorts of things, The Explorer, Wilder. They're some of the writers I see most frequently in a social setting.
Or as social as possible, but that is an iconic circle. That is an iconic circle.
They are. We all have the same agent, which is kind of how we got to know each other, and they are excellent women and writers, obviously.
Oh yeah, I think I've read pretty much everything that they've written so far. I've only just started to discover Catherine Rundle, but I've read The Explorer. I'm going to read Rooftopers next.
Oh, one of my all-time fave middle grades.
Oh, yes.
I read it when I was a librarian, and I even said, I was like, I want to be friends with who wrote this, and now we are friends. So that makes me like Machiavellian, and like I was like plotting to befriend her, which I kind of did, but she's amazing. And now I am friends with her, and she's wonderful.
Plotting to befriend her. That sounds very ominous. So that's like the end of like this whole like little fun icebreaker rounds. Let's get into some nitty gritty about the author. I mean, it's not going to be too hard or anything. Don't worry about that. So am I right in thinking that Tilly is 11 years old at the start of Pages and Co?
Yes.
Yep. So what was Anna James like at 11 years old?
Oh. I mean, I think probably in temperament, not a million miles from Tilly. Sadly, I did not live in a bookshop, and I also live with my parents. I was honestly quite an awkward child and teenager. I
don't believe that for a second.
Oh no, picture this. Okay, so I've always been very tall, ginger curly hair, which as a kid had not got a clue, and neither did my mum have a clue what to do with it. And I essentially just had like this cloud of ginger frizz for most of my childhood. Had sticky out ears, and I was a very awkward. I'll find photographic proof. I was
yes, please.
An awkward child.
Oh my gosh, yes, please.
Yeah, but I was a big reader. Really, that was the key thing. In the northeast, not far from where Gav is now. So
northeast born and bred.
Yeah,
I like that. What does a typical day in the life of Anna James look like?
As in now?
I get up at 10:30.
No one wants to know what I was doing when I was 11. It was like very boring.
No.
I mean, nowadays, obviously, with the virus, it's also quite unexciting. Do you know what the silver lining is that I am free to, on the whole, follow my night owl instinct. So I do get up relatively late, mess around, procrastinate for a bit. And then I'm at the stage at the moment. I don't have a routine basically. And it's part of the reason that I went freelance. So I was a freelance journalist before I got my book deal. And part of the reason I went freelance was just because I just don't like people telling me what to do, and I don't like routines. So I'm not one for, I don't have a sort of very set routine. I don't have like a number of words that I write every day. So every day is different, except at the moment it's not, because there's a pandemic. So every day is the same.
That's fair. I mean, you wouldn't even want to know what my routine is like anymore. It's out the window now. Out of the window. But actually, I just want to come in with a couple of viewer comments there. Terry said, congratulations on your new book.
Thank you.
Celebratory said, just received the notification to say the copy's on its way.
Yay, thank you for ordering it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And also, if I know Anna is very active on like Twitter and stuff, so if anybody has any, when they get the book, I'm sure Anna would love to know when your copy has arrived. So a case for books. Add a case for books. Yeah, and also, actually, that goes into the next one. You are also a YouTube star. Add a case for books. You actually started your YouTube channel quite a while back, right?
Yes, really ages ago. But I also, I'm not very. When I started it, I was working as the literary editor at Elle magazine, which meant that I read a lot, and I read strictly in terms of publication date, and I read in advance because we worked about 3 to 4 months in advance for the print magazine. So basically I started it because I was able to do these videos that were basically like 5 books to look out for each month, because I was always reading that set month 4 months in advance. But then when I stopped doing that, I really enjoyed being able to just read what I wanted and not have to worry about publication date. But then it's meant that I've gone through a bit of a time kind of trying to figure out what to do on my YouTube channel. And then also the more, I don't know, people, I don't know how much people talk about this, but honestly, when you're an author, it's really hard to talk about other people's books. You can't just say everything you're reading, because I wouldn't ever publicly say that I didn't like another middle grade book. And so I can't do that same like kind of reading diary, like this is everything I've read, because I would never want to be I would never say that I liked something that I didn't. So I tend to just not really talk about it, and then I'll just highlight the ones that I really love, because much as I wouldn't ever be negative, I wouldn't ever lie either. So kind of grappling with what I think I probably need to do more authory things. I've been editing the footage from the tour I did 12 months ago.
You've been promising that for a while now.
It's really nearly done. Like it is. I always commit to making them more complicated than I need to. And it's all like, try to make them look pretty. But all the visuals are done. I'm just recording the voiceover at the moment. So there will be a US tour diary coming soon-ish.
I'm so excited for it. We will definitely get it out, because I've been looking forward to it for a little while now. I remember you mentioning it, in the Book Wanderers Club, which you do, because I also watch that as well. Do you have more Book Wanderer Club episodes coming up?
So it's going to be, yes, although it's going to be a bit more of an ad hoc thing. I think obviously it was 3 times a week and live during lockdown when schools were not happening, but now schools are back. I think you can't really do it live in the same way because there's not kids at home to watch it. But I did one occasion Kev sang, and I've got a few others lined up, but they're going to be pre-recorded, and they'll be a bit more sort of like ad hoc as books that I like kind of come out. So not with any sort of structure.
We got a comment saying you resemble Emma Stone so much, even your facial expressions.
I mean, that's a really nice compliment. Thank you.
Yeah,
really, that's really nice.
I would agree with that as well. You've got the curly hair routine down beautifully.
Oh, thanks.
And Dem437 said, I finished the 3rd book about an hour ago and absolutely loved it.
Thank you so much. That's incredibly speedy. I'm very impressed. Thank you.
And be sure to put your review on Amazon, Goodreads, and anywhere that sells the books. Waterstones as well. Let's not forget Waterstones.
Thank you, Gavin.
I totally forgot to do that, because Amazon doesn't let you do a review before the book's out. So even though I read it a few weeks ago, I couldn't put a review up. So I've done that now. Don't worry.
I did, because I felt so. I did just tweet about it. I decided to not play it cool. Because once a book's been out for a bit, I genuinely feel quite chill about reviews, and like also books aren't for everyone. It's totally fine, and also it just kind of evens out when there's lots of reviews. Then it evens out, and whatever anyone thought of it is genuinely fine. But because there's only 2 reviews, the fact that one of them is mediocre made my average look really bad. And I was just like, please, can someone put a nice review up there so it doesn't look like the book isn't very good?
Yeah, I could rant about that review. That I know what you're talking about. I could rant about it. We can rant about it later as well, actually. Pandy Girl said, I am a night owl as well, and stayed up till 3 in the morning to finish the 3rd book.
That makes me happy as an author and as a night owl, as a fellow night owl. I've just stayed up really late to finish books many times.
Well, I had to. I mean, I shouldn't admit this on camera, but I had to, when I was working and stuff, during my breaks, I would also take because I had to read it on NetGalley, I had to take it down, during like a really quiet moment at work. I would kind of just like sneakily read it at the till, when I'm not serving anybody.
No, that's fine. It's part of your job. I was a librarian for years, and I used to be at my desk, like as in at the library desk.
Oh, actually, funny story, because I started working at Waterstones in October 2018, and that was round about when the first book for Tilly and the Book Wanderers
Yeah.
came out, and it was in hardback. And I had to try and, because I was terrible at reading things at that point, and I hadn't read very many children's books. So I was asking like other people, like, oh, what are the main children's books that I should be reading and recommending? Because recommending is a huge part of being like a bookseller and things. And that one was like the most requested like book to read for, like, to be able to recommend to young readers. So it was one of the first ones that I ended up having to ever recommend, apart from like the books of the month.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear though, because like, firstly, just the book is so much about my love of bookshops and libraries. And also just booksellers are the like blood and glue. That's a weird, that sounds a bit
it's not an attractive
the lifeblood of the book industry, and like,
yeah.
And so it means a lot that it means a lot when booksellers have enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh, 100. Honestly, I could give you so many stories, but I won't, because we've got so many like things I'd love to get through tonight. But Natalie Kelly said, I'm whizzing through book 3 and I'm trying to slow it down so it doesn't end too quickly, especially when we have so long to wait until the next one, because we finish the book straight away and then we've got to wait for the next one. It's the audacity. The audacity, honestly.
No, if it's any consolation, as an author, writing one a year feels horrifyingly fast. So,
I can imagine, like, especially because the time does go by quickly. I can imagine at the start of 2020, and as you are probably still writing Map of Stories, that we're at this point now actually talking about it and it's out as an actual book. Have you seen? Okay, this is a question that I'm just popping in. Have you seen the paperback cover of the book yet, of Map of Stories?
No, I don't think it. Have you seen it? I was going to say
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it. No,
I get to see stuff before I get to see it, but I don't think it exists yet.
Okay, because I know like the paperback has a different cover to the hardbacks, which is what I love about the series as well, and why I have copies of like the hardbacks and the paperbacks, because the paperbacks have such beautiful covers as well. So I can't wait for that cover reveal.
I'm very lucky. They do, like Paola, who does the illustrations, and the designers at Harper, they do such a lovely job with the books. I'm very fortunate.
They genuinely do. I just saw a really good comment as well there. I read the first 2 back to back, and then teared when I noticed that the third wasn't released yet.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we totally get it.
It does end on a cliffhanger, and I know that's really annoying. I'm sorry.
That's fine. We always forgive, because it just makes it so much more exciting when the next one's out. But Sarah pre-ordered the 3rd book during quarantine. Karen, Italy, can't wait to finally read it.
Oh, amazing. And actually, though, I think it came out today in Italian.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah,
it's called Tilly and the Secret of the Books. It's not called Pages and Co.
Ooh, well, I kind of like that though. I kind of like it's very mysterious. Very mysterious. Librarian and always reads it at her desk. Can't wait to read Pages and Co. Question: what do you like better, the US or UK cover? Oof.
I mean, I obviously like them both equally.
They are your children, yes.
But I think that they are obviously very much variations on a theme. They are tonally quite similar, and they both use Paola's illustrations. I would say for book 1, for the hardback, I prefer the American one. And 2, I prefer the British one. But I like that they really are kind of tonally pretty similar. And the American one, I don't have one in here, but the American one for book 3 is the first one as well. It's a gently different color, but they've gone for more of like a winey, like it's much more of a winey color than the kind of raspberry pinky color it is here.
Yeah, it should be on the thumbnail for this live. Yeah, because I love the American covers so much as well. So I'm going to end up having to get those somehow. I don't know where I can buy them from in the UK, but it'll happen. So the last question is sort of like being an author. What was it? Because you have been a librarian, you've been a journalist. What was it that made you so interested in being like an author and trying your hand at fiction after writing, like journalistic pieces and, actually like, because you would have had to recommend as a librarian as well. And kind of, I mean, as an author, it's kind of the same job. You are given stories to kids who are reading your books and kind of enlightening them. And so, like, how did you make the crossover from being like a journalist and librarian to being an author?
Do you want the honest answer?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Do I need a topic for this?
No, it's not scandalous. It's just because, so the honest answer is being an author is not something that I have like always wanted to do. I've always wanted to write, but it wasn't specifically fiction. So as in, I always wanted to work with books and writing, but I found journalism hugely creatively satisfying, and I still do it, and I would never want to give it up completely, even if I didn't need to do it from like a financial point of view. I would never want to give it up completely. I really enjoy doing it. I find it very creatively satisfying, and I get to meet and talk to such interesting people through it. And when I worked at the bookseller, I was just hyper aware of how many books there were in the world, and I was always quite, even though I obviously thought about, I think everyone who works in books, you kind of think, oh, if I was going to write a book, what would it be? But I wanted to make sure that I didn't do it just for the sake of it. There's so many good books out there, and I didn't want to just add to the noise without feeling like I had something to say. And so it was just, I had the idea basically for Pages and Co. I just had this idea of, it started as kind of like a magical bookshop that it was just the one way, it was just characters popping up in the bookshop. And then just sort of initially, actually, I was having a glass of wine with Kate Rundle and Catherine Rundle, and I was like, oh, I've had this idea for a book. Do you want it? And she was like, no, you need to write it. She was like, I'll have it if you, well, I think the phrase was if you get hit by a bus. So she was like, why aren't you going to write it? And so I had to go. And then it sort of went from there. So it was kind of, I feel like I wish I could be like, I've always wanted to be an author, but, you know, I've always wanted to work with words. But it wasn't until I had the idea for this story that I actually sort of seriously started pursuing it.
Yeah, that's a really good answer, actually, because I know a lot of authors are like, I just known it in my bones since I was born, since I came out of the womb. I just always knew I wanted to. I love that. I love that. It's kind of, all of that has informed your writing today. And it really does actually lend nicely into starting to talk about the Pages and Co series, which is why we are all here today, because it is such a beloved book on BookTube as well. I don't know if you know this, but a lot of BookTubers have read and loved Pages and Co. For the second Believeathon, you are the third most read author out of hundreds of authors. You had, I think it was around about 46,000 pages read, something that there was a lot of people reading Pages and Co. So like you are quite a popular.
I don't seek it out because I've got too thin skin to, if I stumble across people who don't like it, it's too stressful. So
I can definitely imagine that. So sorry, that was just like a little bit like, I just want to inflate your ego just a little bit before we talk about the books. But so for the people who maybe have tuned in and maybe haven't read Pages and Co yet, do you want to maybe explain what this series is about just a little bit?
Sure. So Pages and Co is about Tilly, who is 11 at the start of the first book, and her best friend Oscar discover, this is the headlines, discover that they are book wanderers, and that means that they can travel inside of books, and that also the characters pop up in bookshops and libraries as well. And book wandering shenanigans ensue. They go to real life books, so it's real books that are out of copyright. And Tilly also discovers that perhaps some of her kind of family secrets have more to do with book wandering than she first realized.
Oh, honestly, literally, I read the first book along with the audiobook, and it was like, it's so good. It's so, I don't know if you've listened to the audiobook of your own book yet. Okay, good.
I haven't listened. I can't cope with listening to the whole thing, but I've listened to it, and I saw some of it being recorded. Aisha does a beautiful job.
Oh, 100%. It's just so magical having the kind of experience all together. And also, if anybody is like asking questions, I'm not ignoring you. I will probably save some of these for the end. I'm keeping an eye. I don't think I'm ignoring anyone. But that's like a really good explanation of the series. It's how I would recommend the book to a lot of people in store. And so that leads nicely into how you got the idea of Pages and Co in the first place, like before you try to pawn it off on Catherine Rundell.
So okay, have you seen the film Empire Records? It is
actually, I haven't. Oh my
like
god,
a 90s teen. It's like a cult classic, not like an actual. And it's got like a young Liv Tyler in and a young Renee Zellweger in. And it's about a group of teenagers who work in a record store in America. And I loved it so much as a teenager. And honestly, initially I was like, it'd be so cool to have like an Empire Records, but about a bookshop. And then I wrote like a page and I was like, okay, well, I can't write YA. That much is abundantly clear immediately. And so I sort of kind of abandoned that, and then when I made the characters younger, it just kind of clicked into place. So I just had this like idea of a bookshop where there was like a community of people, and then the magical characters popped up. So I should get better at talking about this, because I feel like it's not like a very kind of, it wasn't like a very linear sort of, there was a few things kind of swirling around that kind of coalesced into the idea. And then the bookshop, making up what Pages and Co is like is the best bit, because it's just an amalgamation of all my favorite real life bookcases, bookshelves, oh my goodness, bookshops. And
cheers.
But Waterstones Newcastle is definitely one of the ones that is in there. So that was the bookshop I used to get taken to as a child. And for people who haven't visited it, it's got like a staircase that goes just up the middle of it, and the children's floor is in the basement, and it's got just like a big staircase. It's not even that big, in my imagination it was huge, and then I went back recently and I was like, it's not even that big.
No, it's like, yeah.
But I used to spend my parents won't be watching this, but and also sorry booksellers, but it was the 90s. My parents just leave me there whilst they did their shopping in town, and I would just read in the basement of Waterstones Newcastle. I did used to buy books as well.
Okay, good.
I know that's a nightmare, but as I said, it was the 90s. It was, anyway. But that case is definitely. I hadn't really realized that I'd used that, and then when I went back as an adult, I was like, oh, this is why I did that. And that often happens, that you don't you're not consciously being inspired by things, and then you see something and you're like, that's why that was in my brain. So Waterstones Newcastle there's definitely a lot of that in Pages and Co.
The basement, yeah, because it's I don't work at the Newcastle one, I work at the Gated one, and I love the booksellers at the Newcastle branch as well. So if any of them are watching, hello. They are like, it's just a fantastic place for like children's literature. It's a little bit of a magical place as well. When I see kids, I don't mind as a bookseller seeing like a child sit on the floor and reading. I genuinely don't mind that. I don't, as long as they're in the corner and they're not in the way of other people, you know what I mean? It's fine. But as long as they're kind of like reading and stuff. So like bookshops and things definitely does encourage people to read. And I feel like with your books as well, it does have the love for bookshops and the love for books very apparent. And I genuinely, it's one of my favorite aspects of it. So I was going to ask, like, it must be fun being able to travel into some of these stories that you would have read as a kid. So like Alice in Wonderland or Anne of Green Gables and Treasure Island. And what are the challenges for you to have to take like a beloved character and have to sort of do your own Anna James kind of stamp on it? Is that something that's really challenging, or is it actually easy to do that because you love the characters? Or
it does depend, but it really varies book to book, and a lot of it depends on my kind of relationship with it. I was really nervous about doing it because I was worried that people would sort of be like, how dare she think that she can kind of borrow this character, and I was worried that people would feel that I hadn't done them justice. But like Anne of Green Gables actually was the one I thought was going to be the hardest, but it was the easiest, just because that was a book I've read it so many times, and that character is just part of me. And I actually found that one probably came the most naturally. Sometimes when I've picked books that it's more because like it works for the plot of the book rather than because I love the book, those are the ones that are kind of harder, and I have to sort of I'll reread the chapters they're going into like a few times and get into the voice. And sometimes it takes a couple of goes as well. Sometimes I have to write it badly just to get like the beats of the plot, and then go back and really work on the voice and the tone and the characters. So it varies a lot between books as to how hard it is.
I can imagine that. You've probably been asked this question before, but Tracy asked a great question. I'd love to be a book wanderer. Who would you visit if you could book wander?
I mean, Anne of Green Gables would be top of the list. It's one of my all-time favorite books. My favorite book when I was a child, that and Diana Wynne Jones. And also it's like it's safe. Like, this sounds so, I'm such a wuss. Like, so many books I love, I wouldn't want to, it's like talking about which sitcom would you live in. Like, so many of the books I love, I wouldn't actually want to book ones there because it'd be terrifying, incredibly dangerous. Like, Northern Lights is one of my all-time favorites. And there's moments of it that would be amazing to go to, but so much of it is like cold and dangerous, and everyone is sad and scared, and I'm not sure how much fun it would actually be to book wander. So Anne of Green Gables would be a good one because it's safe. Shirley.
Yeah, I would definitely not last. I probably wouldn't even last in Pages and Co, to be honest. I'd get stuck in an M paper somewhere or something. Kia said that you were spot on with Alice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I recently reread Alice in Wonderland. I found Alice so whiny. She was like, but I forgot about that. And then when I read Pages and Co, I totally got the impression that what she was like. And then I reread the book and I was like, wow, actually, you are spot on.
Oh, that makes me really happy. I tried to get, she is kind of like, she's quite sassy and whiny, but in like a fun way. And I did try to capture that. And actually, Goldsborough Books, the indie shop, so they have an anthology coming out for their 21st birthday, and I have written a short story for it. But it is it's Tilly's 12th birthday party, and it's basically just like a little vignette. It's quite short, but it's basically the characters from Through the Looking Glass that Alice sequel kind of spill out into her birthday party. So I got to revisit Alice and the Lewis Carroll kind of madness for that short story, which was super fun.
Oh my God, I cannot wait to read that. Make sure you keep all of the details on Twitter and stuff. I need to know. I need to read. Anne is Zoe's favorite character, and Muzmuz said absolutely loved Anne and Alice. So you are, and honestly, there's so many great things to look forward to in Pages and Co 3. I can't wait for you guys to read it.
I would say it was the hardest ones to get right. I won't say any spoilers, but some of the voices I was trying to get right in Pages 3 were definitely the hardest ones I've had to do. Let's say that. And if you've read it, you'll know what I mean. I think it's very obvious which ones would be hard to get right.
Oh, 100%. Even I guess with the first Pages and Co, trying to get the voice right and how they would react to situations that you've never seen them in before. I can imagine that was really, really hard, actually. So do people now expect this from you as for the Pages and Co series? Do you get lots of demands and requests about what books to use for this? Like, I can imagine people do expect it and how much of a challenge that is. So do people do that all the time?
Yes. But the main thing that kind of helps with that is that people, obviously all the books that I've used are out of copyright, so I'm allowed to use them. And most of the books people want me to use are in copyright, and I am just not legally allowed to use them. I know more about copyright than I ever wished to. And so a lot of the book, I get a lot of children ask me if I'm going to use Enid Blyton, and I mean, I'm not sure I would. They don't date well, let's say that. But I loved them when I was a child, but they're just not in copyright, and they're not going to be in copyright for ages. So that's my kind of get around for dealing with requests, because most of the time I just legally wouldn't be able, I can't use those.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I mean, you can use it for maybe Pages and Co 39, maybe,
Yes. I do know I have a little list of books and when they're going out of copyright, and so I can what's available.
That is smart. So one of the best aspects for this book is the book wandering, but you've also because you'd think like with the Facebook, it would be so magical to just go into a story and for them to come out. Yeah, that's magical, but there are rules. There are rules, and you've created this world where book wandering is. Yeah, it's kind of like a structure. So we have like source editions, which is like so imaginative. I love the idea of that. There's like a core edition where a story is, because with the fairy tales as well, it's like loads of different stories. But with a source edition, it keeps it bound in like this one place, and it makes it easier for people to be able to like book wander and things. So like with fairy tales, it was a lot of oral storytelling, and I love how you've built this entire world with book wandering. It isn't just going into stories or coming out or characters, and being able to converse with. It's a lot of stuff that's really imaginative. So how have you managed to plot and use your imagination to actually create this world? I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. And especially with the third book, there's so many great things about the third book that comes into play from the first two books. I'm sorry if I'm inflating your ego too much here, but there is just so many great things about this book wandering world that I think has been set up from the very first book. So how did you plot it? How has your imagination worked?
Well, now
slow down, Gavin.
No, it's very kind of you to say, and I'm really glad that that's how it comes across. I'm wary of being too honest because I am not a plotter, and I really would love to maintain the illusion that I planned it all out in advance.
Break down all of the walls, you can be honest.
Yeah, that is not the case. I obviously had, well, not obviously, but I had the broad arc in my head, but also then I changed it and it hasn't ended how I initially thought it was going to end. I do try and plan, and I just can't. They're very bad plans, and then I can't turn them into good books. And so what I tend to do is I do quite a lot of research. Like I read a lot of books. These actually, you can see this is my like work. These are all like books about books and writing and histories of libraries and like all of that. So like I read a lot of that sort of stuff, and like just try to put as much of that in my head as possible, and then sit down with a Word document. And my first drafts are so bad, but I've embraced, basically it's instead of doing a plan, I write like a messy first draft. So it's really like it's a draft zero, and it's doing what I think other people who do planning, it's doing that same process. And really my second draft is like the proper first draft. And that's how I just put everything into it. It doesn't make sense. Characters, like when I handed in the first draft of book 3 to say to my editor, I was like, right, there's a character that's like in it for the first third, and then I realized that actually it doesn't make sense and it doesn't work, but I didn't have time to like unpick her. So there's just a character that then just stops being mentioned like halfway through, I'm aware. So there's a lot of that. So there's some things I know that I'm exploring, and there are some things that just as I write, I basically just try to put as much stuff in my head as possible and hope for the best.
I love that though. It's kind of, I can imagine like a lot of the greats from back in the day, like say like Roald Dahl, or like some of like really imaginative children's authors. Like I can imagine none of that makes sense in your head, but putting it down on paper, it probably doesn't make any more sense. But once it's been edited and once you've spent more time with it, yeah, it becomes more clearer. And actually,
as I have themes, I think that I know I want to explore. Like the book 3, the plot has changed a lot, but the themes have stayed the same, and the emotional. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but the finale, the mechanics of it has changed quite a lot. But the themes and the kind of not moral, but the I don't want to do any spoilers, but like what the characters take from what happens, that was always what I knew was going to happen there, but I wasn't quite sure how I was going to get there.
That because Maura did ask like how long did it take to figure out the rules of book wandering with the source books, but is there something you wish you could add to the first book now that you're 3 books in? That's a pretty good question.
It is a really good question, and
well,
I mean I think that inevitably anyone who's writing series, especially if you've got magic and like magic systems at play, you wish you could go and kind of make things clearer. I know my publicist is watching this. It's just dawned on me how stressful this must be. I'm sorry, Louisa. I'm sorry.
Hi,
So
Louisa.
the full, okay, for example, if you read a proof of book 1, it doesn't even mention the archivists. I made them up in between the proof coming out and the finished book coming out. I didn't even know. And I literally was like, with my editor, we were like, oh, maybe this, she had said, my editor for the first book had said, do you think there'd be like someone more senior than like the individual national book, what like under libraries? And I was like, oh yeah, probably. I wonder who that would be. And that's when I came up with the idea of the archivist. And obviously this isn't a spoiler. It's a very, it's on the jacket of the book.
Yeah.
No, the finding the archivists became the whole thing. And it's not even in the proof. Like literally they're not mentioned. So I don't want to seem like just a mess of a writer, but you know,
it makes it more relatable. So
plotting is not the thing I find easy. So yeah, I do think that, like, yeah, the emotional beats and the messages of the book and the themes tend to stay as exactly what I want, but I often mess around with a lot of different plots and mechanisms to best kind of get there.
Oh, that's a good shout. This is a great question. I would have saved it at the end, but I think it fits here actually. Why do you use the smell of toasted marshmallows to snickle when a character is entering a story? I love when that happens as well.
Okay,
it's so cozy.
People asking such good questions, and they're getting out all these things that I've not said before, and so many of these. And I wish I had like romantic, like exciting, you know, answers that made me seem like I'm a genius, but none of not the case in any of them. So the honest answer for that is that when I was writing book 1, I wrote a lot of it with Katie Webber in the basement cafe of Waterstones Tottenham Court Road, and we used to write there together a lot. And I had written the tea party scene the first time they book Wonder, and I don't let people read my first draft, anyone apart from my editor. And
me.
Honestly, it would be mortifying. It's mortifying having to send it to my editor. But I'd written this scene and I was like, oh, I actually think this maybe works. And it was such an important thing, the first book. And Katie read it and she was like, this is great, but you mention all the other senses and you don't mention smell. And she'd said, is there a smell? And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting feedback. And I was like, well, what would the smell be? And I don't know, it just felt right. Like toasted marshmallows came to me immediately. And it's because I think it's just a smell that you associate with adventure. And it's like bonfires at night and night air.
Telling stories. Yeah,
it's cozy and adventurous at the same time, which is basically what I want the books to be, like cozy but also adventurous. And it came to me and it just was right. So that's why that came in, because Katie told me I should put a smell in, and I thought that was the smell that kind of summed up the feeling of book wandering.
That's a good, and especially since on the third book it has As Comforting as Hot Chocolate by the Sunday Times on the cover. It's perfect with the hot chocolate. Yeah, it's fantastic. Kia asked, did you write the books from chapter first to last and then edited, or did you pop in and out of chapters?
No, I write super linearly. In my first draft, obviously when you edit you have to, but I literally write from the beginning to the end of a first draft, and I find that it's the best way to make myself work things out, because if I get to a bit that I'm not quite sure, it would be easy to come back to it, but I'll make myself, at least even if it's something that is terrible and I come back and change, it just means I just have a book that I can work on. So yeah, no, I always write my first draft start to finish.
That's a good show. You mentioned themes before as well, and before we get into the third book, I promise this is the last question about the first two. So like family and like Tilly living with her grandparents and the bookstore setting is literally one of my favorite things about the series, and I'm sure for a lot of people as well. This is literally the definition of like a cozy book for book lovers. As we mentioned with the hot chocolates and the toasted marshmallows, what is like the representation of family meant for you as like a writer, and is it important for you to convey like more important things about family and friendship in your books as well?
Massively so. I think family is something, it's such a, that's such a,
The big question.
Like, that's a big thing, like, but it is something that's important to me. I'm not going to go into detail, but I'm very close to my family, but I had a slightly unusual upbringing, and I think it's just, that's definitely influenced it. I was very, very close to my granddad, and Tilly's granddad, not so much as I wrote him, he's very much become his own thing, and actually where the character has got to is not really like my granddad at all, but he very much started as a lot like my granddad, and my books were a huge part of my relationship with my granddad. And I think just that connection, like, this is a spoiler, but it's not a plot spoiler, but the third book, I mean, all the books are about this, but the third book makes this very explicit. It's just that idea of like this chain of readers and writers, and I think that your family is often a huge part of that chain, and how you encounter books at a really formative time, and the books that you end up reading, your family inevitably is, for a lot of people, for a lot of children, your family has huge impact on that. And I think that that's really interesting. And there's a quote in the first book where Grandad sort of says, the books that we read when we're young help us decide who we want to be, and that's something I'm endlessly fascinated by. So yeah, the impact that family has on us, particularly to do with the way that we read, is something that I find is a key theme for the books.
And it definitely carries into the third book, Pages and Core, the map of stories, which has literally just come out. How did you spend your day yesterday? Like, it must have been such a whirlwind of an adventure yesterday for you. Happy book birthday, by the way, for yesterday. How did you spend it?
Well, I mean, obviously it's slightly strange because of the whole pandemic thing, so it's a bit of a different one. But I am very lucky that my local independent is an absolutely wonderful bookshop. I have a children's bookshop that's sort of 15 minutes walk from where I live, the Muswell Hill Children's Bookstore, and they are just wonderful. So we were doing, they had it up that if people pre-ordered it through that, I could dedicate them, because obviously I couldn't walk to them easily. So I went to see them and had some cake and signed the pre-orders that had come in through them, which was one of them you.
I think I've ordered a few copies of the book, to be fair.
But there was one that says it had like a believe-a-thon pun, and I was like, sure, this must too much of a coincidence. This much.
Yeah, I've already got my copy, but because I agree with you. I love supporting independent bookshops as well. And your local bookshop is fantastic. They do pre-orders, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, yes. So, I mean, I linked the bookshop as well in the description box. I haven't done it already. I've linked Anna in the description box, but it is a fantastic bookshop. So if they do more pre-orders and stuff, or more signed editions, then I'm sure they will be more than happy to take pre-orders and things. Yeah,
we've taken down, we're not doing the like official sort of pre-order link, obviously, because it's out. But if you do get in touch with them, because I'm local, like, I can do signed books via them at any point if you just get in touch with them directly.
Yeah, and they're fantastic.
They're lovely, yeah. So I did that, and then we went out. My boyfriend and I went out for dinner because, obviously we can't do like a party or anything. So we went out for a nice dinner because I had put money on the women's prize winner.
Yes.
The other week, got it right. So we spent my winnings on a dinner to celebrate the book coming out. So it was lovely, quite a like chill but really lovely day.
Congrats on winning that.
It's the only thing I ever gamble on is book prizes. I have got it right for the past 4 years, the women's prize. So
wow, oh my gosh, I'm totally backing you next year then. Also, you got some really beautiful earrings from your boyfriend Adam as well.
Yeah, they're too small to see on camera probably, but they're little bees, which is obviously they're on the book cover.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yes. And you can go on Anna's Instagram story as well to see them more up close. So did you get a lot of people shouting at you at the end of the Lost Fairy Tales because of all of the yeah, I can imagine. Can you tell us some of the times when someone shouted at you for the cliffhangers and things?
I get letters from children complaining about it.
I thought I was bad.
No, and I don't mind, to be fair. Honestly, one of the absolute best bits of writing middle grade books is getting letters from children, and they are the only people I will take critical reviews from, because often they write to you and they say nice things, but they really do tell you the things that they think you should have changed. And I had a letter from a little girl this week, actually, that it had taken a little bit to get to me. It had come from a different country, and then it had been posted to my publishers, and obviously because of the virus, people hadn't been in anyway. But she'd written, and I can't remember exactly what she said, but it said something along the lines of, "Now, Anna, I'm sure you're expecting this, but we need to discuss book 3." And then she wrote down like a paragraph of ideas, and then said, "Please, can you use them? Because my friends would think it was so cool if you did."
Well, that's you told.
And I have written back to her, but I can't say I'm sorry, like it was already finished. But actually, one of the ideas is not a million miles from what does happen, so I was quite impressed. But yes, children complaining about it to me. They literally post me letters about it.
Excellent. So, I mean, give me the PO box, because I want to write a letter too now. I don't. All love. Is Map of Stories your favorite book so far? Because I know it's mine so far. So is it your favorite? And very vaguely, without spoilers, can you say why it's your favorite?
So yes, it is my favorite.
You have taste.
Oh, thanks. I do. I don't know if it's a case of you always like your most recent book the best, or if it's because I have to come back, like once I've written the next one, have to see if that one becomes my favorite or still like this one. Although I think I hope that each new one is my favorite. Non-spoilery. Okay. Okay, I would say it's
so hard
to like wrap up a trilogy, even though I know we're going to come on to what happens next, but you know, a lot of things are wrapped up in this book, and it's satisfying bringing that to a close. And the end, like the finale, I really enjoyed writing. I had a lot of so there's some things that are it's not strictly book wondering, but there are some familiar characters.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun doing that and those characters are some of my favorites. And there's a scene with one of those characters. So annoying if you haven't read the book. There's a scene with one of the new characters in this book that I didn't make up, but I'm happy with the voice I've created for that character. And there's a scene with that character that was my favorite to write in the whole trilogy.
That is, I mean, you were vague, but I kind of got it.
Okay. Do you know which scene do you think you know which scene I'm talking about?
After we finish the live, I will ask,
We'll
because
confirm.
yeah, because I know when I finished reading the book as well, it's hard because when you're reading an arc, we can't really say anything or give spoilers or go into too much detail on reviews, and that's so hard. So I ended up messaging you after I finished, and I was like, okay, these are all the things I loved, and bullet pointed like all this stuff. So there was a lot. But
there's
I think I might
characters in the third book, and I think that some of my favorite characters in the whole trilogy are some of the new characters, both ones I borrowed and ones I've made up. They're some of my favorite characters.
Yeah, I think I have a new favorite character in one of the characters as well, which I'll mention at the when we finish the live as well. But
can you? Oh, I want to know. Okay, is it someone I've made up, or is it someone I've borrowed?
No, you.
Okay, well, you can say the name. If it's someone I've made up, I don't think it gives. If you just say the name of the character, it doesn't give anything away.
Okay, Milo.
Okay.
Yeah, he's so cute. Anyway, excited. Also, yeah, you mentioned the ending there. I wanted to say as well, it's a bit like Avengers Endgame. Like that's how I would say that is like the end of like the Map of Stories. It's such Avengers Endgame energy. So that should make
full disclosure, I haven't seen that, but I feel like I know what you're saying, and I appreciate the sentiment.
Yeah, that's how I kind of say to people now. It's like Avengers Endgame energy. That gets people really excited. So one of the true highlights of the series is the friendship between Tilly and Oscar. And I genuinely love their friendship so much. They have such great banter and like the way they talk to each other. What can readers expect more from those two as characters? Like, does it test their friendship? Is there like I know everything because I've read the book. I feel all powerful, but like, what can readers who maybe haven't read it yet, who will love their like chemistry, what can they expect from this one?
So it's interesting, that phrase, because I don't think there are moments that they don't necessarily have the same idea about what to do, but I don't think it really tests
I
their
love
friendship,
that.
because I really enjoy writing actually a friendship that, even though they sometimes like bicker or don't agree about the best course of action, but there's not, again, sort of a spoiler in that it's saying something that doesn't happen, but they don't have a big dramatic fallout. But that was important for me. I really, like books you don't have to have antagonistic relationships, and sometimes you read a book and characters fall out and it doesn't feel true to them. For drama, and the drama doesn't come from there ever, and I really enjoy writing a really strong, like stable friendship between two kids, especially a boy and a girl. And it's a point, like I don't ever want kind of, the drama will never come from Tilly and Oscar falling out.
I love that. I do think they have one of the best friendships in middle grade, which is why I've like asked you to do something specific for me, like very vaguely, because I don't want to spoil that either. That's why I gave you that one.
Okay.
Because you write friendship so well, and I love that. Also, Adam agrees with me. Milo rocks. Milo rocks.
I should say Adam is my boyfriend, for people who don't know. So he's lovely but biased.
Yeah. But he agrees with me, so it's great. He knows what he's talking about. So I don't know if I can really ask this question. Oh, because there's like so many new magical things that you introduce in this book. Like, don't worry, like nothing too spoilery. You did a reading yesterday.
Yes, that is on the internet. So
yeah, that is on the internet. So this particular reading, can I mention what it is? It's a magical.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is this like incredible magical train, and it's called the Sesquipedalian. I can't.
Nice.
Did I get it right?
Yeah, Sesquipedalian.
Yeah, and it's incredible. Like, so, you mentioned, I think in a different interview, actually, like how you feel like you are trying to get your writing to go from strength to strength. Like, the more you write, the more you kind of become stronger as a writer. But does that apply to your imagination? Because with the sesquipedalian, I love saying that word. It's such an imaginative kind of magical thing. I don't know how to say that, but like with your imagination on the third one, how have you managed to keep your imagination like fresh? How have you managed to keep it to like 3 books in? How have you managed to keep your imagination imaginative? Like, I don't know how to ask that question without being.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is though. I think when you're writing a series, you kind of end up so deep in the world that you just know it very well. Also, I do feel like I feel more confident going a bit more like wild. Not wild, it's not wild, but I do think I was more nervous to start with, and I kept it safer. And I think the more I write, the more I feel more confident to make it bigger and to just let my imagination go. And my editor says, like, make it huge and we can always rein it in as we edit. And my editor of this book, he's great, and he really like encourages me to just like go all out, and we can always rein it in. And it's really fun. I don't know, I just sort of, when I'm doing my messy first drafts, I just don't analyze it too much. I just write down whatever comes, and if it's too much or it doesn't make sense or it gets silly, I rein it in as I edit it. But I definitely feel more confident to kind of just go with what's happening.
Go for it. I love that. Yeah, that's a good shout. I can't ask the next question as well because it's about. Well, actually, no, I can, but I want to be really vague about it. So the bad guys. I mean, it's written on the blurb as well. It's written on the blurbs, but I'm kind of a bit worried in case people haven't read the second one as well. Okay, so if people haven't read the second one, I just want to briefly talk about baddies and the bad guys, because they must be so fun to write. And honestly, like, if you read the second book, like, this is like a little not exactly an intro, but if you've read the second book, you'll know what I'm talking about. But there's definitely some characters who are the bad guys, and I love reading about villains, and I'm just wondering how you approach like villains. Are they fun to write? Like, what is it that do you take any inspirations from other villains? Because children's fiction has some of the best villains, and I feel like even with the first book as well. I mean, if people have read the first book, Enoch Chalk, and especially like with the second book, I won't say who, but just in case. But I do love writing villains.
So I actually find villains quite hard to get right, and if I didn't have to worry about plot and stakes, I would just write all the magic and the book wandering, and there would be no stakes. Chalk in the first book is actually not loosely inspired. There's a book called Momo by Michael End, which is another of my favorite children's books. It's not well known.
Never-ending Story, is that the author?
Yes, and that one's obviously much more well known. But Momo, his other book I just think is just so good, and it's all about storytelling. And it was originally published. The title was The Grey Gentleman, and the baddies all wear bowler hats, grey bowler hats, and so that's Chalk's bowler hat. That's where that comes from. I find it's not so much I enjoy creating them like as characters, but it's their motivation I always find trips me up, and kind of getting the stakes high enough. And it's hard because villains, it's hard not to fall into like the cliches of like villains always kind of want, world domination and power, and how do you put like a new spin on that? And I sometimes it takes me a bit to kind of work out. So they come quite fully formed in terms of what they look like and who they are and their nature, but then turning that into kind of what that means for the plot in terms of what they want sometimes takes me a little bit to work out. And my editor often says that like I need to make the stakes greater.
I like that. Before I get into like the sort of like the future of Pages and Co, then there is the question by Maura. Am I allowed to say can you say the comments right now?
Oh no, I'm completely just on, but I can let me change.
I just want to know if it's okay to say this one. I mean, I don't think it's that much of a spoiler. It's just a setting.
No, go for it. I have YouTube open, so just go for it.
Do you enjoy making up new bookshops like the Shakespeare's Sister bookshop? I want it to be real. Oh my gosh. Okay, settings. Let's quickly talk about the settings then, because we have Tilly and Oscar go to America in this one, and we also have Shakespeare's Sister as a bookshop, and it's just an incredible place. So yeah, do you enjoy making up new bookshops like that?
I love it. It is super fun. I also steal liberally from real life bookshops. I'm not sure if there's acknowledgements in this one, but Shakespeare's Sister is not the concert, but as the name gives away, like it's quite like theatre-y, Shakespeare-y themed what they stock, but it's in an old converted theatre. But that was because when I was on tour last year, I went to Denver and I visited a bookshop that was in a converted theatre, and I was like, I'm having that. And we have a wrapping room but that again, I've stolen that from a bookshop called McIntyre's in North Carolina. They had this like this room. It was like something out of like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. All these like reams of coloured paper and ribbon, and I just thought it was magical. I do ask and say, do you mind if I borrow this? And I've thanked them in the acknowledgements. And obviously my versions are kind of different versions, but often if I'm in bookshops and I see something that's particularly kind of magical or beautiful, I borrow it. But I love getting to make up bookshops. It's one of the I enjoy making up settings. It's one of my favorite bits, and one of the bits that I find comes more naturally as opposed to plot.
Fair. See, if I'm not in the acknowledgements, I don't read them. No, Joan. I do. I love them. So then I guess just like with the last segment, if people do have a question for Anna, do let me know now, because we'll briefly talk about the future of Pages and Co. And I will most likely have to be so vague with this because it hasn't been written yet. And of course, no spoilers as well. So if anybody has any questions, do let me know in the comments. I will make sure to ask them. But am I right in thinking, like, obviously, like, Pages and Co is supposed to be a trilogy, so it's kind of expanded on now? Like, can you explain what the future of Pages and Co is going to be?
So, as you said, it's still a little bit vague. It's sort of half vague because I'm working on it at the moment, half vague because I'm not sure actually what I'm allowed to talk about. And we're obviously still, there's also just the kind of business end of, like, obviously deals in different countries, and, you know, like, it's still something, you know, all sorts of things still being hashed out. But I am writing another 3 books, and they are going to be within the book wandering world, but a new character will take over the POV. So there will be appearances from people that you already know. And if you've read the 3rd one, you'll know that not everything is resolved. And so don't worry that is not, I'm not just going to leave that. So, yeah. So I see it as, you know, Narnia, like, it's all in Narnia and the characters kind of crop up in different books, but each, you know, it's kind of like that Narnia model. It's in the book wandering world. And a lot of the characters you will still see, but a different character is kind of doing the POV.
I like that. I like that. Please, like, everybody who's watching, when you read Pages 3 as well, send me a DM. I don't mind, because when I do my reviews on my channel, I have to be so vague. But now it's out. I guess I can be all. I can say anything I want. But yeah, no, honestly, I'm so excited for what the future holds. Do you already know how the series might end? Like, do you have any kind of inclination? Or I know you say you don't plot. You're a bit of a pantser. But still, it's like, do you kind of have a big idea?
So I think I have an idea of where I want this next 3 books to go. But who knows what will happen again in the future in terms of, who knows if this will be the last. Like, I genuinely don't know if there'll be 6, or if we, you know, I quite, the fun thing about kind of doing the whole Narnia style of, it does mean that you can, like, bounce around, and there's lots of other potential stories, but it depends on if my publisher wants them. It depends if I want to write more of them. But I know where the very broadest of arcs, I know where I'm going. I actually have this, like, very specific image in my head that isn't really very it's like an image, it's very visual, and who knows if it will end up going there. But at the moment, that's in my head for the end of book 6.
Okay. Oh my gosh, like, this is a moment in time. We don't know how, say in like 10 years time, like, say if the series has ended, we can look back on this and just laugh and be like, oh, what sweet summer children they are. But any teasers you can give us for the next book? Any, like, vague spoiler-free teasers that you're allowed to share, maybe?
So, I mean, I've already told you that it's a different character that will be doing the POV. I will say that it's a character that you meet in book 3. I will say that there is a little, like, I think of it as like a post-credit sequence, because the book finishes and it's like there's an epilogue, and it very much, the book has ended, and then there's like another page, and there's like a post. It's like in a film where the film's ended, but there's the little teaser. So I would say that what is on that page will be picked up on in book 4.
In September 2021 is the likely.
That's the plan, unless something goes horribly wrong.
Fingers crossed it doesn't.
I think, actually, do you know what? I assume so. I'm not sure that I've had that explicit conversation with my publisher, but I think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's just following the pattern of the last ones. Then, yeah, that sounds about the plan. Because you've said you don't really know, like, how you're gonna, like, if it's gonna be more. Because I had written, like, what are you gonna do the moment you write the final words in the Pages and Co series? But if you don't even know what that's gonna be or how it's gonna happen, then how will you know? It's like,
no, and I can't think about that. I don't know. I'll probably have a complete meltdown. I would say whenever it is, will cry.
Yeah, no, please don't cry. So then I guess there have been some like questions. May I did ask, where did you get the idea of book wandering? But I think that was just from Anna's like imagination. It's just like, also of course what you mentioned the film before, and yeah, which I need to watch.
Yeah, and I think it's just the idea of if I could do any magic, like it would be to travel inside of books. And it's just, writing books is in many ways an exercise in wish fulfillment. You get to just write things that you wish were real, and so much of Pages is me just writing what I wish was real.
Oh my gosh, like seriously, this is like a book lover's dream come true kind of series, and I mention that to everybody. It's literally, that is what it is. Do you want to write something completely different from Pages and Co at some point, Kia?
Maybe.
Ooh.
I love writing middle grade, and I would never want to not be writing middle grade, even if I wrote something else at the same time. And I also don't know, I feel like a lot of the things I'm interested in, I can't imagine writing something that's like, wow, I'm never going to write like something, I can't imagine ever writing anything that's like very dark or scary, just because it's not what I enjoy reading. And I really do think that you should write what you love to read. I don't know is the honest answer. Like maybe I feel like, with, like I said at the beginning, I don't ever want to write something just for the sake of it. But that's not to say I won't have an idea or an inkling of something that I later go on to pursue. But I don't know. Maybe.
I hope so. I hope you continue. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would love more, like 1,000 books in the Pages and Co series, of course. But I'd also love to see, anything else that you produce. It would just be like so phenomenal. That I'm trying to go like further back as well, because there were some questions at the start that I thought wasn't like right for that time. I saw, oh my gosh, where is it? Oh, well, I mean, Kia did ask like how many books will there be in the series, but you kind of mentioned the plan of that. Also, Tracy said she loves the naked hardcovers when you take the dust jackets off. Oh my gosh, like the designs of these books are just next level. Do you have any say in kind of the book covers or anything like that? No.
Well, I do, in the sense of I get sent them, and I can say, like, add notes. I'm very lucky that the people doing my covers really are very good at what they do, and it's never anything more than small tweaks. Like sometimes I'll have but it's very small notes, and sometimes it's just like pointing out like slightly different, like, in the book it says this, and this is like a different, like, it's literally like for book 2, like Red Riding Hood had brown hair, and in the book I've said she's got black hair. So it's like, honestly, sometimes it's really, I've never fundamentally not liked what they've sent. It's only ever tiny notes. Although I would,
such a relief.
The tagline on the back of the hardbacks all have like a very short tagline instead of a full blurb, but I have written all 3 of those.
Really? Oh, that's a nice little. Okay, I'll read some of them out there.
Okay,
so
okay. There's only 3.
Oh, don't do 3. Did you say?
Pardon?
Did you say don't do 3?
Only 3. I said it won't take you.
That's all right then. So the first one is, there's nothing like getting lost in a good book, as long as you can find your way out. That's like, if I could sum up the book in the stakes in the book as well. Yes, you don't want to get lost in those end papers, girl. The second book is, sometimes you have to get lost to find your way home. Oh, honestly, these books are filled with such gorgeous quotes as well. I should do an entire series of all the quotes that you could take from it. And then the third book is, the best way to have a happy ever after is to write your own story. Oh, so good.
So that's the only like, I've written those, but I don't write the blurb, and I leave the design to the people who know what they're doing.
Fair.
So that's the only thing I have like an actual impact on.
Fair. So also Joyful Jenny with Lettuce is, hi, all the way from the Caribbean island of Trinidad.
Oh, that's amazing. Hi.
I know, hi. Door 16 asked, how old were you when you got into reading? What was the first book you read by yourself?
I can't remember a time that I wasn't into reading. I was read to a lot as a child by my parents and by my grandparents. like I just can't remember not being into books. There are photos of me as a tiny toddler, like reading, just like looking at books that I couldn't read. So I mean, forever. And what was the first book you read by yourself? Again, I can't really remember. I can remember being at home with the chicken pox when I was a kid, and my mum reading to me, and then she had to go and, like, I don't know, answer the phone or make some food or something, and saying, "Oh, don't worry, I'll come back." And I saying, like, "Oh no, it's okay, I can read in my head." And mum being like, "What? You know how to do that?" And it's the sort of thing you don't really realize that you're learning, so you don't remember it. But I can remember mum being surprised that I knew how to read in my head as opposed to out loud. That's the only kind of real conscious sort of memory I have of things to do with that.
Fair. Dorsetine also said, I do try and plan and I can't. Oh, I resonate with that so much. And so I think so many people do find so relatable.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's important to be honest about these things and not pretend that, you know, and so many writers I know are the same. Like, it's not, you know, that's the truth, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm better at it than I am.
I won't lie, I screamed when I reached the end of The Lost Fairy Tales, which is a good sign because it means I'm so absorbed. Yes, I love these comments. Kia asked, are there any books that you would compare your books to?
I honestly, it's a bit of a, like, it's hard, like, so I have a stack. I'm not going to try and get them down because I'll embarrass myself horribly. I'm sure they're like on the top of my bookcase, but I have a huge stack of books about books and like magical libraries that I haven't read because I don't read books about magical books and libraries anymore because I just worry. I don't want to have those ideas, you know, because so much of how I write is just reading and putting things in my head and then writing. And I just don't want to have to worry about whether an idea is mine or not. But I love reading them, and I did before I started writing. So I have a huge stack of books that when Pages & Co is finally done, and it gets bigger and bigger every year. I'm not sure about comparison. I would say that the writer that had the biggest impact on me is Diana Wynne Jones that I mentioned earlier. I think she was, if I had to pick, I would say that she was my favorite writer. I've read almost everything she's written, and I think her kind of playfulness with genre and rules and how much the books are fundamentally about stories themselves had a huge impact on me as a writer. But I'm not sure about compare. It's kind of it's a hard question, I think, to answer as a writer about your own.
I don't even think I could. I've read so many middle grades. I don't think I could compare it to anything else as well. It's just original, okay, guys? Mia asked, can you include more of Jack?
Well, do you know what? Which Jack do you even mean? Because I have this ridiculous problem that when I wrote this shows that I don't plan, because when I wrote the first book, Jack, who runs the bookshop cafe, is called Jack. And then I hadn't obviously decided to do fairy tales at that point. And then Jack and the Beanstalk is in the second book. So I have 2 characters called Jack, which is evidence that I don't plan. So I don't know which Jack you mean. Jack and the Beanstalk, you probably won't see much. You probably won't see any more of. Jack I think it's because the books have become less focused on Pages & Co, because the first one is so much in the store that the character's there. But he is in the short story that I wrote for Goldsborough Books. So if we're talking about Jack the Baker, he's in the Goldsborough story. Yeah. But yeah, 2 Jacks. Sorry, that was bad planning on my part.
It's fine. Jack's a common name anyway, so it's all good. Nothing to ask, but lots of love to both of you from Dubai. Hi from Dubai. Emma says, super excited to read Anna collecting hers tomorrow.
Oh, thanks, Emma. I know Emma's someone I know. I haven't seen her for years and years and years, but we used to know each other IRL. So thanks, Emma.
Hi, Emma. Actually, I've been contemplating getting this series, but haven't due to book, buy, and ban. But after this amazing show, I definitely know what I will be placing in my Amazon cart.
Nice. But also, you know, like I'm all for people reading them via libraries. Although obviously if you buy it, but like, if I totally get the I am desperately trying to limit my own book buying. So I'm really, however you read it is fine by me. Obviously, unless it's pirated, don't pirate it.
Oh,
But
come
any other way is fine by me.
on. Yeah, same. Please don't pirate books. Like, especially middle grade. We need all of the love for middle grade, the promotion, the sales. It'll just be great. Tracy asked, what advice would you give to a person who wanted to write a middle grade?
I mean, I think regardless of what genre you're writing, the advice is it's such an obvious thing, but it really does, like, read as much as you can. Like, when you read, you learn what you like and what you don't like. And I really, like I said before, write something that you would love to read, I think is the most solid advice. I would say with middle grade, I mean, the thing is, whatever you're reading, you need, whatever you want to write, you need to read a lot of that thing. And I think that because you have to know, even if you want to break the rules, you have to know what they are. And I do think sometimes you see, like, sometimes like adult writers kind of, or celebrities will write children's book thinking that it's like easy. And I just think you can't write it, but that it applies to other things. You can't write anything, I don't think, if you don't know it and love it.
Oh, yeah. No, that's actually, that could lead into the next question. Actually, Ashley asked, and I promise, so there's only a couple more questions, and then we'll head off. Sorry, I've kept you so long. It's almost an hour and a half. I'm so sorry. Earlier, you mentioned that you worked for Elle. How did you get into journalism? So that kind of goes into the writing thing, and I don't know if maybe that you did the same thing. Maybe you researched a lot of journalism, or you read a lot of journalistic articles, or things like that. That maybe helped you with getting into journalism.
Again, honestly, nothing in my career has been on purpose. Like, it's all just like, well, I've always just run with opportunities that have presented themselves.
Yeah.
So I was a school librarian for nearly 5 years, and whilst I was doing that, I had a book blog. And through that, I started kind of working with publishers, and also through being a school librarian, I used to have a lot of author visits. So I just sort of gradually started working with publishers more, meeting authors, meeting publicists. And as the book blog got more, which, don't try and find it, it doesn't exist anymore, had to delete it. It's very embarrassing. It's not very embarrassing.
Oh, no.
But like, it's how I learned to write, essentially. I don't have any books in drawers. This Pages is the first book I'd written, but I see my equivalent of that as I wrote do you know what? It's not actually embarrassing. It's just how I was learning to write, and some of my like insight into books is really simplistic and embarrassing in hindsight. Also, I finally deleted it because my editor is Nick Lake, and he's a writer as well. And I realized that I had 2 reviews of his books on my blog, and actually they were both positive, but I was just like, it's so weird and embarrassing to have reviews of your editor's books from like 6.0. They've gone, you can't find them anyway. But we started to get more readers, and so through that, kind of opportunities presented themselves to do a bit of chairing or to write kind of guest blogs for publishers. And then the job at the bookseller, that was before Elle, the job at the bookseller came up, and I applied, didn't think I had a hope in hell of getting it, and I got an interview, and I got the job. And then through that, that's how I got into journalism. And then I started doing freelance stuff while I was there, and then just kind of got enough contacts and commissions that I could go freelance.
I can imagine me and you as a bookseller, like, duo team. Like, can you imagine us tag teaming in the middle grade section, or like the 9 to 12 section? We would, powerful.
Bookselling is the only, no, there's loads of jobs, obviously. I haven't ever worked for a publisher, but bookselling is one of those jobs that, like, I do wish I'd done for a bit. Maybe, I maybe will. I'll come and I'm like, you don't have to pay me. I'll just come and sell books.
See, I would love it if you could come up and like maybe like do a signing, but then after that, just like do an hour of like book selling.
I would love that.
Excellent, because it's going to happen. Aisley next just said, I love Pages and Co, such a fun series. And Lisa said, I love the series so much, Anna, and can't wait to read the 3rd. I should be coming to me from Goldsboro very soon. You both are beautiful, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
One's on Wednesday, so they are all signed, and they'll be going out imminently. Thank you.
I can't wait. I cannot wait to get my signed copy from your local bookshop as well. And also, hi, Aisha.
Hi.
So, I mean, I've had you for an hour and a half. Like, I just didn't want to let you go, to be honest. But thank you so much for doing this as well. If anybody No, thank you. If anybody has any questions for Anna, I'm sure she will be more than happy to answer on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you can
I'm
find.
better at like responding to stuff on Twitter than Instagram. Just
Okay.
so.
Twitter is the go-to. I have all of the links in the description, so you can go follow Anna, ask her anything you want within reason, of course, and unless it's a DM, which I will probably ask a
Please
lot.
don't encourage DMs asking me anything. Please don't. I have been a woman on the internet for far too long. Yeah.
And I get. So I guess that's the end of this live show. And for anybody who is deaf or hard of hearing, I will be CCing this live show. So hopefully in the next couple of days, I will have that done so that you can read or read the subtitles and be able to understand the live show. If you couldn't understand what we were talking about, that's absolutely fine. I will do that in the next couple of days. But yeah, this is the end of the live show. I want to thank Anna so much for joining me on. Well, hopefully I can do more stuff like this. So hopefully Anna will come back for the 4th book.
Yes. Yeah, I'd love to.
Yay. Yeah. Okay, excellent. And don't forget to buy the Map of Stories, Tilly and the Map of Stories. Although in America, I think it's just called Pages and Called Map of Stories, right?
Go through Tilly and it's just the Map of Stories, yeah.
Ah, okay, yeah. So if you are in America, it does come out on the 22nd or Tuesday. Comes out on Tuesday. So do check it out. Yeah. Links in description and all of that jazz. So thank you so much. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.